final assessment. Okay, recording start. Final assessment part 2. This is the part where you do some improvement to your flowchart, and then you need to describe all the improvement that is being done. And the second part is basically a mock screenshot. Okay, now I'm going to also open another this part here, because currently you will be assessed on 2 parts, that is chapter 4 and also chapter 5, improvement through SAP, implementation of SAP. So this is the 2 parts that you will be assessed on this final assessment. So let us have a look. So you have done your interview. You have produced the flowchart. You have produced the description, and you have listed the vital data. Now, if you noticed earlier, during the... Okay, I wasn't supposed to be showing that. But, okay, we just stick with this screen then. Okay. You supposed to be interviewing small and medium company. I don't advise you to go to franchises, large companies for this final assessment. The reason is that I would like you to gain knowledge on business processes that are not matured, that are simple, so that when you do this final assessment part 2, you can suggest some of the improvement through the SAP business process. Okay, so for those of you who, I'm guessing there are only a few of you who presented a very comprehensive and almost complete business process from your case company. So from there, it's going to be a challenge for you to basically suggest the improvement. Okay. So I'm going to use an example here, a very simple example, and maybe somewhat not really real world example of human capital management. Okay. So let's say you have a simple flowchart that is for hiring. So what you gain from your case company, let's say, for example, in terms of hiring, first you list the job info. So basically from there you have the list of data and also the requirements that is needed for that particular position. And then the next thing that usually what the case company do is asking family members, their relatives, if anyone willing to work under their company. If none, then they will advertise it through the World Wide Web, and then you will be interviewing the candidates, and then from here you shortlist, and then you're going to hire the only candidates that you find suitable. So this is what you have done inside chapter 3, the case company flowchart for human capital management. So what you need to do for chapter 4, you need to improve it. How? Is by either removing process, adding process. Depends. Now, if you look at the marking, no flowchart is defined. Okay, no marks. Illustration of company revised BP flowchart by showing all the SAP steps that are being implemented. So basically, if you put every single process that is defined inside SAP, or okay, now this part here, SAP process, which process is it? Is this one. This is the HCM process. So if you take every single process that you see here and then put it inside your revised process, then you get 1. That is how the marking is going to be done, which means The reason is that I would like to see if you are able to distinguish on what are the process needed and what are the process that is not needed. Okay, now this part here, this is the part where it is hardest. If you show additional of relevant steps, you get 3. If you show additional steps and also removal of irrelevant steps, you're going to get 5. So let's say, for example, this part here, if you notice here, this is not 5. This is going to be around 3 marks because currently there is more improvement, more additional steps that can be done. But in terms of removing relevant removal, yes, maybe you can just remove 1. So listing of job info, you can advertise, you can enter applicant master data. Applicant master data is where? Is here. You find relevant process. That is for example. And then you conduct interview and then you hire. So this is the first part that you need to be producing. This one you don't need. You don't need to put inside your chapter 4. This is already defined inside chapter 3. This one you need to put inside your chapter 4. And then the next one is basically you need to update on certain process and description, vital data, and also justification. Now, if you notice here, no changes, no changes. Depend on what, no changes basically depends on what you have defined inside chapter 3. Now, if you notice here, the part where you need to be focusing on for chapter 4 is this 2. After you remove certain process, you need to justify why. After you add certain process, you need to justify why. In terms of the vital data, you can improve a lot because currently, from what you see inside the SAP, you can move those data that you learn inside SAP into here. From what you have seen here, these are the list of data. Notice here, sorry, this one is quite short, applicant data. Where is applicant data? Applicant data, applicant data, applicant data. Where is it? First month, here. So let's say for, is it hire? This is hire employee. So here, post job advertisement, enter applicant master data. So notice here, these are the different data that is involved with certain applicants. So basically you can learn it from here, see how much data is being input, and you can put it, advice for improvement on this part of the vital data. You can suggest more data or you can remove some data. This one you don't need justification of addition and also removal. Justification here is just for the process. I repeat that. Justification here, the reasons is basically for the process, not for the vital data. Vital data, you can just insert, you can just list down new and also remove some of it. But when you want to remove, don't delete. Use this, like here. I don't basically remove, I just minus this. Okay, if there is any question, you may just mention it inside the chat. I'm monitoring the chat. If you have any question, just post it immediately. Okay, while I'm giving explanation regarding the final assessment. So first part of chapter 4 is the revised process. Second part of chapter 4 is this, basically listing down the description, the vital data, and also the justification. Now, if you look at here, new vital data. So basically, you just list down what are some of the, I'm guessing there's not going to be a lot of removal of vital data, but there are supposed to be a lot of improvement. So make sure you give this. 25% of the flowchart element shows data, improve new data, 75% improve new data, 90% of the flowchart element showing improved data. Okay, now that is it for chapter 4. Now, chapter 5, you need to be producing a mock screen. This one depends. You need to be producing, let's say, for example, you don't need this screen. You don't need to screenshot this screen. What you need to be producing is this. If let's say, for example, you want to define a new position inside that company, then just do something like this. But don't do as obvious as mine. Make it look seamless, but please make sure it's being highlighted with different text color. When I say make it seamless, make it look like it's actually like you either input inside the SAP and then you screenshot, or you do it this way. Both way can be considered. You go inside the system, insert the data inside the system without saving, just inserting, and then screenshot, put it inside your document. Now, in terms of here, I am looking at least 7. At least 7. Just 7 screenshots that is aligned with what is your case study, what information that is needed. If you do a case study, you do a case company that is barber, and then suddenly inside your screenshot is talking about chief security officer, then you won't get this much marks. You're going to be getting around 2 or 3. And then you need to be considering the order of the screen. From first until the 7th screen is in order. If you want to provide more than 7 screens, it's not a problem. Because currently we are talking about business process. Okay, now data entry. Okay, this part here is not really involved data yet. This is providing 7 relevant screenshots. So if your screenshots are relevant, then nice. Then order of screenshot, is it correct from step by step? Nice. And then finally, if the data that is shown, minimum of 25% of what is being shown in the screenshot are correct inputs, then you get 1. If you show all the data that is inside the screenshot correct and aligned with your case company, then you will get full marks. Now, in terms of here, you may play around. It's either I don't accept, okay, now here's the thing. I don't accept the screenshot from, let's say here. Minimal inputs that is just about searching or creation is not considered as a screenshot that is applicable for this final assessment. What you basically need is something that is in detail like this. If you want to be safe, please find an input that is having a lot of data. If there is only 3 to 4 inputs, I warn you now, hopefully you do not do this. I warn you now, if there is only 4 inputs in the screen and you provide that input inside your final assessment submission, you're going to get low marks. If you provide me with a screenshot like this, then you're going to get the possibility of you are getting full marks for the data input is high. So I warn you now, so make sure you do that. So those are the things that you're supposed to be doing for your final assessment part 2. So basically, if you look at here, when you do chapter 5, you need to provide 7 screenshot maximum. But Those 7 screenshots must have a lot of inputs, and your data must be correct, and insert some of your the order itself must be correct. Now, just to make sure, please insert a little bit of description of what that screenshot is representing. Currently, it's not being mentioned here as the marking scheme, but it would be helpful and to me when giving you marks. Try to imagine when I open your final assessment, what I see are only 7 screens, 7 screenshots, okay, without any words, without any description. I'm going to be very pissed off. And then start with the second person. I'm going to be super pissed off. So basically, starting from there, when I start to get really not in the mood for giving you marks, it will be impacting future students. So just to be nice to other students, please provide some description on each of the screenshots that you are providing in your final assessment. Okay, and finally, you need to produce conclusion. It's either you have conclusion or no conclusion. 5% group work. Okay, so the rest is individual. 18.5% is individual, 19% is individual, 30% is individual. Okay, and now, if you notice here, the first part of your deliverable is 30%, 40%. So the next part of your deliverable is also almost 40%. So in total for everything, in total for your, for this one, it's not basically individual. This is 10%. 10% here is because of the rising number of COVID. This part here, I'm being very lenient. Some of you share company, some of you go to individual company. That one is beyond my control. COVID is beyond my control. So basically, chapter 3, chapter 4, and also chapter 5 is a definite individual marking. 30%, 50%, 70%. Final assessment, 70% is basically on your, this part here, final presentation, another 12%. So basically around 80% is individual. So hopefully you can do your best in the final assessment and provide with something that is eye-pleasing for the examiner. Okay, now those are the things that is what you need to prepare for your final assessment part 2. Now, before we end the class, is there any question related to the final assessment?